Okay, good. Right. I'm not sure if I'm audible yet. Okay, wonderful. There's quite a lot of people. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our live hacking session here. Just to point out a few things before we begin, because I know quite a lot of you guys will have questions along the way, quite a lot, in fact. Please do use the Q&A session. There's a nice little Q&A section that you can find somewhere there. There's also a nice little chat section there. In fact, I'm going to drop a nice little message there. Okay, you may also use the Q&A so you can provide any questions that you guys may have as we progress through. Okay, so we're going to be completing a CTF. For those who are a little new to the whole realm of cybersecurity, a CTF stands for Capture the Flag. In full, in fact, it stands for Capture the Flag, which just provides you a real life computer system for you to perform tests. So you get to test out all your skills all together, and we can see how far you can go all together. So when you registered to join up on this challenge and this session, you received some resources. In that case, it's actually TryHackMe for this, in this case. So we'll be using TryHackMe. TryHackMe is a very interesting platform that has a lot of real life computers for us to actually test our skills on. So we'll be using this. Okay. So just to introduce ourselves, hi again. My name is Tanashe. I'll be your instructor for this. I am the lead instructor for the Cybersecurity Bootcamp in the Melsoft Academy. So if you love what we're going to be doing today, this is almost every now and again for us in our bootcamps. So you can register for our bootcamps if you would like to spend more time with us. But nonetheless, we are going to jump straight into business. So before getting started with the CTF, one of the biggest requirements that you're required to have was you needed a penetration testing distribution. Although after saying that, I actually think that's a very huge word. You need a hacking operating system to make it simple. Something like Kali Linux, for instance. There was actually a YouTube video that guided you through on how to install that entire operating system on a VirtualBox, as we call it. So you can install that on your VirtualBox. It's just an application that allows you to install other operating systems, so you can run things simultaneously. So we're going to jump straight into business. So we're going to have our VirtualBox. So I'm going to go ahead and just share an empty screen for now. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and begin. So you're just going to see a black screen for now, for the sake of reference for now. So with this in mind, it's just a black screen. Don't mind anything quite yet. So the first thing we need is that VirtualBox, and we need a penetration testing OS. I'm not going to go through the whole setup process of how to set that up and all that. But I'm going to show you how to jump straight into it. So here I have my ParrotOS. Okay, this is my penetration testing distribution that I'll be using. And this ParrotOS, ooh, this ParrotOS, so there's my VirtualBox. I do have a couple of systems that I'll be using here, but in my case, I'll be using ParrotOS. Take note, for those who used Kali Linux, you can use Kali Linux, you can use Backbox, Cyberhawk, whatever fits your fancy. You can pick whichever of those operating system works for you. Then we're going to go into that environment. And the reason we prefer, obviously, to work with ParrotOS or Kali Linux, it's because it's Linux, and the amount of power that you have when you're using Linux is pretty much limitless, if I may. So we're going to be using that due to that extra bit of power. So here goes my ParrotOS. It starts up just like a normal operating system. It's gonna take a bit depending on your system's performance. As a cybersecurity practitioner, 8 GB of RAM and above works quite well. So there's my nice little VirtualBox. It takes a bit, obviously, to boot up. Again, depending on the system's performance that you have. So I'm going to let that boot up. It will take quite a while, in fact. I've fought with this guy for quite a while now. So I'm going to set this aside while it boots up. Okay. So just for the purpose of purposes and just that little chat section, can you guys go over to that chat section there? Just give a nice little greeting so I may know who I'm working with here. Just go there and say hi in the chat section. And I may say hi back while my dear friend comes. Okay, let's reset that. Okay. Let's do this, and we'll just go ahead and work all the way from our VirtualBox for now. So I'm just going to show you our ParrotOS. Voila. Okay, that should be fine. Okay. So I'm gonna let my distro boot up. If you want to actually follow along with us live, feel free to do that. You can follow along live as we go. Although the speed might not be exactly up to par with you, but I believe we can do this. Okay. Oh, someone says greetings from Rosebank. Oh, hello, Lloyd. Hi from, okay, also Rosebank, kind of. All right. Okay, there we go. So there she boots up. So I'm using ParrotOS, which looks quite fancy, I think. So this is what I'll be using. If you're using Kali Linux, perfect. If you're using Cyborg Hawk for all the people with a little more experience, you could use that as well. Oh, there's someone from East London. This is pretty nice. Okay. Sweet. Okay. And there's someone else from Pretoria. Koketso. Hi, Koketso. Okay. Sweet. All right. Okay. All right, my VirtualBox is good enough now. So I'm gonna log into my nice little machine right there. Nicely log in to my nice working station. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to be using this. Take note, using the VirtualBox is not the only method for you to do this. Some people have an entire laptop just made specifically for this. Then they have the Kali Linux or ParrotOS or whatever it is that they would like installed on that device. So you could do that. But nonetheless, so we're going to be using TryHackMe. So here's my ParrotOS. If you're using Kali Linux, you'll find an interface that's a little similar and a little easier to use in some cases. So here, I'm going to just boot up my Firefox browser because for cybersecurity people, we don't like Chrome pretty much at all. So we're going to be using Firefox for this. So there we go. Firefox is just said to be a very, very private browser. So I'm going to be using it because it is very, very, very private. Okay. That's why we add it. I'm just going to shift over this to this side so I can see any questions you guys may have along the way or any technical issues you guys might face as we progress through. Okay. So there we go. Okay. You guys keep using that Q&A section if you have questions. Okay. And yes, yes, we are recording the session. All right, so there we go. We're going to be using this. So I'm going to jump straight to the TryHackMe website. So I'm gonna search right there. TryHackMe.com is the website to note right there. So I'm gonna go over to TryHackMe.com. So all the questions that we're going to be doing from time to time as we go through, we're going to start with easier problems and then we're going to go over and over to much more difficult problems. So we're going to start easy. So here's mine. That's quite a huge rank, but nonetheless, once you get to the TryHackMe and you've logged into your account like I've already done, I don't do much of TryHackMe problems, so don't expect big stuff. But nonetheless, while you're here, I'm just gonna go over to the learn section, and then you'll find a practice drop down. This is what I'm gonna go over. So we're going to look for a Windows system just to make it a little more familiar for us, as this is our first live hacking session. So we'll work on a Windows problem. We'll work with something easier. So I'm going to start with a beginner level. I'm just gonna use Anthem for now. I'm going to try the Anthem challenge. Now, one thing that you need to understand about TryHackMe and all these other platforms is for you to be able to interact with the machines that you are provided, you can do this in two ways, either two ways. You can either use the attack box, that's one method, or you could use your own live hacking system. In my case here, I'm going to be using my own live hacking system. The reason for this is because if you use the attack box, you'll be limited to an hour every day. And for someone who's learning, an hour might not be enough. So we're going to be using our own system. So I'm going to show you how to set this up. So once you get started, do not be alarmed if yours doesn't say share your achievement and all that, wada, yada, yada. Don't worry if it doesn't say that. If you're starting for the first time, you probably have this as your first challenge. So once you get started, you'll find a couple of tasks there. We have task 1, task 2, and task 3. We have 3 tasks to complete in order for us to finish this entire hacking challenge. So I'm going to click the drop down that we have here. Here, they're saying your task involves you paying attention to detail, finding the key to the castle. The room is designed for beginners. However, everyone is welcome to try it out. Enjoy the anthem. This room will need you to brute force into login pages, just your preferred browser for the remote desktop and all that, wada, yada, yada. I've already answered most questions. You have questions that you have to answer along the way as you go through, which is good. It somewhat guides you. To answer your question, Lloyd, no, my screen is not on Chrome. Right now, you should actually be able to see my TryHackMe screen, by the way. Should be able to see the TryHackMe screen because that's where I am. I'm inside of my VirtualBox. Just let me know if you are able to see that or if there's any adjustments that need to be made. Okay. Is that okay? All right. Just to be sure that I'm actually on the same screen with you guys. There we go. I think we're not on the same screen. Okay, there we go. There we go. They disappear and back. In fact, that's the wrong screen. Let me fix that. Okay. Let me just be sure I'm on the right OS. Okay, there we go. That should be fine. Okay. I believe you should be fine now, Lloyd. Are you guys okay? You should be able to see TryHackMe. We should be fine. Let me know in the Q&A section if you guys are okay. All right, perfect. All right, sweet. So let's proceed with that. Okay, so here we are. So the first task we're going to do is to connect our ParrotOS in my case, or if you're using Kali Linux, we're going to be connecting your Kali Linux to the TryHackMe network. So you'll find access machines, nice little access machines button there. You'll click on it. You should be able to get a draw out that looks something like that. We'll scroll down to it. You should be able to find your OpenVPN advanced option. We're not going to use the attack box because it will limit you to an hour. We don't want to be limited to an hour. So we might need a little more time. So I'll be using that. Once you click on it, you'll be able to see 2 or rather 3 selective buttons there. So depending on your operating system, you'll select. In my case, it's actually Linux. In fact, all of you would be Linux. If you're using a penetration testing distribution, you'll be using that. So we'll be using that. Then you'll click on download your VPN connection pack. Then you might get a pop-up depending on your settings to set this up. I'm going to actually save this in my home folder and just save it there. So to help you understand what on earth just happened, we just downloaded a configuration file. So it's a nice little file that TryHackMe set up to help you connect to their network. Okay. Once done, we're going to now grab our terminal. There he is. Now take note, if we use the command pwd, it will show us the current folder that we are working in. Because remember, you can work in different folders all over your computer. pwd just shows you which folder you're working with. You can note here, I'm actually working inside home, and inside that home folder, there's another folder called Nash, of which I'm inside that folder. Okay. With that in mind now, I'm just going to list out all the files that are in this folder that I'm in. Just going to list it out. You should be able to see the file that we just downloaded from TryHackMe, which was called tenacioLorenzi.ovpn. In my case, it's this file right there. That's what I just downloaded now. Just to confirm, if I click on that, you should be able to see. There it is. So the reason we're doing this is because we want to use this file to begin making a connection. So I'm going to copy the name of the file, just like so. I'm just going to copy that, like that. Just going to copy it. Then we're going to connect to the TryHackMe network. To do this, I love the fact that they actually gave you the instructions. Just sudo apt install OpenVPN if you don't have OpenVPN. But if you're using Kali Linux or ParrotOS like I am, you should already have TryHackMe installed. Not TryHackMe, sorry, OpenVPN installed. So we're just going to jump straight into business. So for us, we're going to say sudo OpenVPN and then paste the name of the file right there. Okay. Then we just hit enter. You might have to enter your root password depending on how you set up your system. If you did the quick installation for Kali Linux, chances are your root password is Kali, literally just the word Kali, lowercase altogether. But anyways, after doing that, command sudo apt, not sudo apt, sudo openvpn and the name of your configuration file. If it finds the configuration file, it will use it. You'll get a lot of gibberish that shows up and all that. But for you to know that everything worked, you should be able to see the initialization sequence completed. You should be able to see that. That's just to prove that you've performed everything correctly. So once you're done with that, I'm going to minimize this. Then I'm going to open a new terminal. We don't want to close that setup that we just did. Otherwise, we'll be disconnected from TryHackMe. We don't want to be disconnected. Okay. So for you to actually prove that you've made your connection and everything works perfectly and your setup is fine, what you're going to do is you're going to try this. You're going to try and see if you have access to this IP address that we have here. So we're just going to try ping 10.10.10.10 and hit enter. If you get responses, then that means everything is fine. We'll control C to stop this. So what we're doing is 10.10.10 is an IP address of a certain device that exists inside TryHackMe's network. You cannot access that device without being part of the TryHackMe network. Now, because we are actually part of the TryHackMe network, we're actually connected via VPN, we can actually communicate with that device, which is good. Okay, I'll clear out the terminal for now. Now, let's minimize this. Okay, now that we've made our connection and everything, we won't need this. I'm just going to click in there. So now we're going to start that machine up. So when you're doing your TryHackMe, you're going to notice it's not going to give you the IP address of the target machine as of yet. You'll only get the IP address of that target machine after like 50 seconds or whatever. And then the good part is you have an hour to hack that entire system. You have an entire hour to finish that entire hack. So it might take you a bit. If you need extra time, you'll just hit that add 1 hour. But the best challenge is to be able to finish that entire hack without ever clicking that button. So you might want to make it snappy. But anyways, we can do this in less than an hour, hopefully. So we're going to get an IP address. So just to use our thinking caps here, in fact, my students who we do a lot of cybersecurity together with is we love following a lot of methodologies behind this. So there are steps to our entire hack that we're going to take. And the first step of every entire penetration test or ethical hack, whatever it is that you're doing, the first step you're going to come across is always going to be information gathering. You need to gather information about the target system first before you do anything. In fact, it's the most important step during this entire system. So I'm going to go here and just copy that IP address. I'm going to grab this guy, and the first thing I like doing is to see if I can actually talk to it. I'm going to try and ping it, paste that IP address there, and hit enter. First thing I like doing is to always make sure that I can actually talk to that device. If I can't, then something might be wrong with my setup. I might have to go to the VPN setup and see if there's anything that needs fixing or something like that. But also in some cases, the target machine might have a firewall, and the firewall might just block and say, no, you shouldn't be able to communicate with me. Just like this, we don't actually get anything. In fact, it doesn't want to respond to us, which is fine. We can just decide to try and get more information. So for those who have done ethical hacking before, we always know the first step, again, is information gathering. We want to gather as much information as possible. And we're going to use a special tool inside our distribution. And the name of that tool is called Nmap. So I'm going to sudo Nmap and then provide this IP address. And then I'm just going to enter in my root password, just like that. I'm going to paste it right there. Now, Nmap is just a tool that gathers information. It's called the network mapper in full. You'll notice actually here, it says the host seems down, but if it's really up, then just give us this option, which is what we actually want to do in this case, because the host is up, it's just blocking our request. So I'm going to use the -pn before the IP address. This is just to forcefully send requests without waiting for probes. So we're going to use that option. Then obviously it's not going to just respond immediately, because now, yes, it blocks all the requests because of the firewall and everything, but now we're somewhat forcing Nmap to get as much information as possible. Okay. So we're going to wait for Nmap to do its job. Okay. While Nmap does its job, we're just going to go through some of the questions that are asked here. So the interesting questions that we have here, I love the fact that TryHackMe kind of gives you guides as you progress through. So the first thing that we are asked there is, let's run Nmap and find what ports are open. We're going to work on that later. What port has a web server, and what port is for the remote desktop service, web crawlers, and yada, yada, yada. We're going to work on those. So this is the kind of information you'd find here. So here we go. Nmap is done. That's good. So Nmap has given us responses about the target system that we will find interesting. So here, so there is the scan report. So we have the ports, the state, and the service that's running. So on port 80 of this computer, there's an HTTP service running. That's clear to say that this is actually an HTTP server. So this actually means that there's a website running here. So we can actually check if there's a website. So what I'm going to do is just going to grab its IP address and just going to open a new tab here. Just paste this there in case, just to see if we have something there. So you might not get a response, by the way. So you might want to add a :80 just to be sure towards the end right there. Then we wait. If there's a website that it finds, it will give you the web content back. Okay. Then we also find on port number 3389, there's something called MSWBT server, whatever this means. Chances are, if you don't know what it means, Google it. So we'll do that. We'll just open another port and just Google. Maybe we don't know what it is. So I'm just going to Google that to try and figure out what on earth that MS blah, blah, blah means. So MSWT server is a Windows remote desktop. Oh, that's pretty nice. So it's a remote desktop. So which means we can actually access the computer's desktop. That's pretty nice. That might come in handy. We're going to try and use that. So that's nice. So to answer the questions now, they're saying what port has the web server? Well, it's port 80. We just found it now. Okay. What port has the remote desktop service? Well, we just found it. That's just 3389. So that's the port that we just found now. This is nice. Okay. Then now they're asking, what is the password in one of the pages web crawler checks for? So we need to start using web crawlers and all that, and we need to find content management systems. It gets a little difficult, but we're going to take our path through the website itself. So here we go. Anthem.com is what we are finding. And it seems like it's a harmless website, judging by what we are seeing here. So looking at this, there's articles. Hi, fellow readers, we are currently hiring. Okay, cool. They're talking about CVs. A cheers to our IT department. Okay, that's another thing. So it looks like a harmless website. There's not much we can find. So we're just going to use the questions that TryHackMe gives us. We're just going to use those questions to progress through. So let's go. So they're saying, what is the possible password for one of the, what is the possible password in one of the pages that web crawlers use? So to help you understand what on earth a web crawler is, a web crawler is it's systems like, for instance, Google. Google uses what is known as a web crawler. The day you create a website of your own and you want your website to be available on Google, you can just go to Google's console and then activate a web crawler. A web crawler just goes through to every single page it can find. It's basically crawling and finding all the pages. And that's pretty much how Google is eventually able to see all the pages you have. But there's this interesting thing that a web crawler looks for called a robots.txt file. A crawler also uses this. Looking at this is what we have here. So the crawler actually found something like this, which is nice. And the robots.txt, it actually tells those tools, those crawlers, like the Google crawlers and all those kinds, to not look at these websites. So if this website wanted to be indexed on Google, it will not provide web pages like bin, config, Umbraco client, and so on. It's not allowed to show these things on Google. So that's ideally what a web crawler does. So in our case, this is what we find in the robots.txt. So they're saying, what is the possible password that we're able to find inside this? Well, here's the very first password that we just found. Umbraco is the best. That's what we just found in one of them. Pretty cool. So there it is. Now they're asking, what is the content management system? For those who don't know what a content management system is, it's a system that normally web developers use to manage their websites. A good example you might have heard of is WordPress. It's a content management system. You might have heard of those or many others. So Umbraco, there you go. In our case, how do you know it's Umbraco? Well, Umbraco and Umbraco and a lot of other Umbracos, they kind of pop up a lot. Okay, so there you go. Now then they're asking, what is the domain of the website? Now, if we go back, I'm just going to take this in case it's going to come in handy. So I'm just going to take out a little text editor to paste in this password. It might come in handy if we need to log in as a user. So it's kind of bad that they have the password there, but that's perfectly fine. So we'll have it sitting there. So I'm just going to go back to the previous page. You'll notice anthem.com as the domain there, which is pretty nice. This is what I actually have here as the domain of that website. Okay. Now they're asking, what is the name of the administrator? Now this part can get a little tricky and a little challenging, especially when it comes to finding this name. So in order for you to find the name of the administrator, we have to now start crawling into every website. This happens in a real life state when we go into a lot of these websites, especially blogs like these ones. We can go through multiple of these articles and seeing whatever it is we can find. So here's a nice little article. And here they're saying, if you're interested in a position, send your CV to jd@anthem.com. I'm just going to copy this. It might be useful. This is an email address. It might be useful. I'm just going to write it there. Okay, fine. Let's go back. Maybe we'll find other useful things. It helps. This is just crawling that we're just doing, kind of what a normal web crawler does. We walk around, cheers to our IT department. They said something nice here, Kristen, on Monday and Tuesday. Yeah, there's someone called James Orchard Halliwell. So that's an interesting name. That's an author. Okay, so you're probably wondering how I ended up with that Solomon Grundy. We'll get to those parts. So let me just copy this name as well. We're gathering as much information as we can after all. So we'll gather that name as well. We'll just put it on there. So I'm just going to copy this name actually. It might also come in handy. I'm just going to leave it right there. So also don't be afraid to go around researching the people's names as well. Who knows? That might just be someone's name. So James Halliwell Phillips. Okay, that doesn't seem to be someone's name. Or in fact, it is someone's name. We just found whatever person from Shakespeare's time that was. That's nice. So another tool that we can also use, which is actually undoubtedly the most underrated tool that people don't even use at all. I'm going to go back to the main web page. I'm just going to show you this. Just look at the source code of the page you're looking at. Let's go through it. see what it is you can find just by looking at the source code. Now, looking at this, I don't think there's anything useful as of yet. So you can also browse through it like this, check the categories that you might have. I don't know what this is. That might be a flag. We'll work on that in a few. Okay, we can go through it and keep looking. The archive, the we are hiring page, we can look through it. What can we find here? That's the we are hiring page. We can go through it and see whatever it is we find there. We can go through these. But in fact, what I just showed you, there is that thing again. Interestingly, there's that little detail again that we're going to find in handy. So what you just saw just now, those are actually the flags that TryHackMe wants you to find, interestingly. Okay, so we had jd.com, just to show you the whole Solomon Grandy thing, by the way. So here we go through those, we go through the categories. In fact, let me copy this. This is actually a flag we're going to need later on because this looks odd to be in a web page in the first place. We're going to copy that. I'm going to copy it and place it here. It's going to place it right there. That shouldn't be in the source code. I'll go back to other pages as well. A cheers to our IT department. Cool. Cheers to them. We'll browse through there as well. We still find the very same thing. That should be something interesting in our case. So we're going to take note of that. Okay. We explore as much as we can through the source code itself. In fact, there are other pages, thinking about it, there are other pages that we don't know of, that we didn't look at, such as the tags section and the categories. We will actually be able to find other blog posts that have interesting information. Okay, there's nothing in the categories, in the tags. Nope, there's nothing in the tags, so that kind of sucks, but that's fine. Okay, we'll go through this. We've read the article and everything. You might also want to read the content of that. That's fine as well. Okay, but I'm going to set that thing aside for now. Okay, so what I just showed you now were the flags themselves. We actually saw this before. That's one of the flags themselves. This is what I love about it. You get to test your attention to detail as you read through a lot of these CTF challenges. You get to test your attention. Are you able to see things that seem to be out of place? Okay. Yes, guys, it is being recorded in case you are missing anything. It is being recorded. Okay, so let's progress through. So looking at that, yes, there we go. We just found our very first flag. Now we're going to find these others as well. As you go through a lot of those pages, you're going to see a lot of these THM, which just stands for TryHackMe's. So the more you explore a lot of those pages, the more you're able to find the solution to those flags. That's why they call them flags. So you're trying to capture those flags. Those are the flags you're trying to find after all. So with that in mind, that's fine. We found that very first flag. So when we go through the other remaining pages, you'll actually be able to see the remaining flags that I have there. So we're going to be doing that just now. Okay, so we found that Umbraco is the bait, but what I also want to do in essence, actually, I wanna try and find the page's login page. So I want to try something. So remember when we got to the robots.txt, the robots kind of outline pages that you're not allowed to index. So I actually want to try and visit these pages to see what I can actually find. So let me do that. So I'm just gonna do this. Let me go back and grab its IP address. I'm just gonna grab that. Okay, I'm just gonna paste this there. Let's try and figure out what's inside the /Umbraco. Who knows what we might find there, right? So we can go there. That's Umbraco. We can also attempt to go through the binary and the config and all those others. I'm just gonna do them one at a time and see what it is I can find. The reason why I'm doing this is I want to look for a login page. And login pages, especially if it belongs to the administrator, especially if it belongs to someone who owns the system, they wouldn't want that system to be available for everyone. So I want to keep it as secret as possible. I want it just there. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it right there. Okay, so we'll let that open that Umbraco page. Oh, it's doing exactly that. While we're at it, I'm gonna go back. There's something that I found weirdly interesting actually. We're gonna go to that we are hiring page. Remember when we found JD at anthem.com? Something is interesting about this guy. So looking at this, we are hiring there, the author. There's it. And look what we just found. We just found the other page. So we need to spider through a lot of pages actually. So there we go. We just found one of the other flags to complete this. So there, we found that other page, which is nice. Okay, back to that Umbraco login page. So here we are. This is actually a login page, surprisingly, which is actually something that we actually want in our case here. We want that login page. Now, what can we do with this login page? We're going to attempt, you might attempt to crack passwords or anything like that. But whenever you're doing a lot of CTFs and a lot of hacking, try to go into password cracking as less as possible because it's a big problem and it takes a lot of resources and a lot of time. So we're going to avoid doing that CTF. Okay. So going back into this, so there we found one of our flags that we need to solve this problem. So here, so I'm going to go back to anthem.com, nothing fancy. We'll just take a look at this other one as well. If it has an author, we should be able to find another CTF. Okay, Richard doesn't have anything, but this thing though, this is a poem, born on a Monday, Christian on or whatever. I'm just gonna Google this, whatever this thing means. Just gonna Google this. Okay, just gonna Google it. Nothing harms us. Maybe it's a poem that has some interesting meaning. We're just gonna Google that. Who knows what we might find? Yeah, Solomon Grundy is the name that we just found. And if you go back to the solutions I had before, that was the name of the person that was the administrator to the system, Solomon Grundy. And because it's Solomon Grundy, judging by the email address of JD, judging by this guy's email address, jd at anthem.com should be Solomon Grundy's email address. Because it's kind of a rule, it's kind of a pattern that we noticed through all these systems. So that's pretty nice. But anyways, that part is done. There are other CTFs. We found the CTF. We found that CTF as well. We also need to find the other remaining CTFs. How are we going to find that? We'll work on that as we progress through to find the remaining ones. So we found quite a couple actually, which is pretty nice. There's automated tools that you can use, by the way, for you to automate the process of finding the pages that have the CTFs and everything. There's a way of automating that entire process, but I'm not gonna go deep into it. I'm actually gonna let you guys find the remaining CTFs and where the pages are, where you're going to find those CTFs. So what I'm now going to do, I'm going to go to the part of gaining access to the machine, which is the final stage. I'm not going to bother about the CTF. So with that final stage now, you're going to notice they're saying, let's figure out the username and password in the login box. The box is not a domain, by the way. So there's a login box that you have to go through, and I'm guessing it's probably in the login page or maybe something like that. It's probably on the login page that you have to go through. So in order for you to do that, we need to find the password. And honestly, I don't think we need to go through any password because we did actually find Umbraco is the best as a password. So we're going to be using that. And judging by the information we actually found on our Nmap, if you remember Nmap, we found a remote desktop protocol before, which is nice. We're going to utilize this. So remote desktop just allows you to access a device's remote desktop, just kind of similar to what we're doing with ParrotOS and moving our mouse and all that. We're going to be using this actually. So there's a special tool that we're going to use called Remina. That's an interesting tool you can use. So I'm just going to search for Remina. There's Remina. So I'm going to use Remina. Okay. Let me just take note of the other things that I found as well along the way. I might need them. So we found sg at anthem.com, which was actually the user account of Solomon Grundy, which was the name of the person. So Here we are. There's Remina. Remina is a simple tool. It allows you to access a remote desktop. So here is a couple of protocols. We're going to be using RDP in our case here. We just need our IP address so we can actually connect to that device. So we're going to go there, paste this in, and boom. Okay, light work. It takes a bit. Do you want to accept? Yes, I do. Now we have to authenticate. And this is the things we actually need, surprisingly. We have to provide these things. We need a username. We need a password. And you might be like, yeah, this is a problem. The username and password. How on earth are we going to find the username and password? Now, in order for us to just get that username and password, we're going to think about the administrator. If you recall, the name of the administrator, the person owning the system who we're investigating, we found Solomon Grandy. You might attempt to use this as an email address, and there's password. Umbraco is the best, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to copy that entire email. Maybe that's the username. Maybe we'll try that out. And then the password is Umbraco is the best. We'll try that. Investigate it as we went through. We'll try that as our password. We'll attempt it. Maybe it might work. Maybe it might not. It doesn't. Cool. What if it's just SG? Maybe there's no need for the anthem.com. We can try that. Umbraco is the best. Let's try that out. Try and log in. Maybe that might work. Maybe. Okay, fingers crossed. And, oh, this looks good. And there we go. We managed to access the remote device as the administrator SG, which is very nice. Please remember, guys, if you have questions along the way, please do put them through in the Q&A section. Oh yeah, so here we go. We have access to the target's desktop, which is nice, thanks to the RDP system that we have there. So here we are. And this seems to be Windows 10, actually. Yeah, this is actually Windows 10, surprisingly. So this is Windows 10. There's this file that says user, whatever is inside here. I wonder if we can actually open this file. Let's see if we can open it. What might be inside this file? Let's figure that out. So I'll try and open that and see. Maybe this is actually the solution to the last thing that we actually need here. Can we spot the admin password? We don't know. Maybe there's the admin password in there. Okay, the initial access. See how they're actually asking for the contents of the user.txt. That's probably what we're looking at just now. The CMD. Oh, there's Notepad. It just opened up. That's nice. Okay. So here's our Notepad. It opens something for us. There we go. That's the contents inside the user.txt file, which is good. So we just found it. Now we need to spot the admin password. Now, spotting the admin password is going to be big of a deal. So for those who have studied Windows quite closely, actually, if you studied Windows quite closely and you want to know the people that actually have accounts inside this computer, or the people that have whatever to this computer, a good place you might want to go through to is Control Panel, for instance. We can go to Control Panel and we can try and access the user access control, you know, that little settings where you can make a new user account. We can try and see if we can access that. So I'm gonna try and search for the control. Oops. Okay, let's try and access that once more. Okay, that's going very slow for me. Okay. We'll try and access Control Panel. That's one way you could do it. Obviously, there is an alternative way, which is browsing folders, which actually seems to be a more effective way now. So I'm going to try and open Control Panel. Maybe that might help to give us access. In fact, this is going to be quite slow. So I'm going to open this so I can start browsing folders. So I can find all the user accounts, everyone who has access to this computer, every account possible. Okay, I'll use that option instead. So there we go. It's a nice little simple computer. I'll just go to this PC, see what we can find here. I'll go into the C drive. Now, this is how it actually works for all Windows devices. They have this users folder. And the thing about the users folder, you can actually see all the user accounts. That's the good part. And judging by what TryHackMe wants, they want the administrator's password. And this is what we want. So we want to go into the administrator. Maybe there's something useful in the administrator's stuff. So there you currently don't have permission. Click continue to permanently get access. Yeah, I want to get access to it. So I'm just going to hit continue. Okay, there we go. But there's a problem now. We get this. This is the problem that we're getting now. They want us to log in and we don't know the administrator's password. So we kind of hit a snag there. So we'll have to work things around and see what it is we can do. So we can do a bit of an investigation. Okay. So in order for us to investigate this, we can try and figure things out. What was the last thing that was opened on this computer? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit Windows R to open the run box. You could do that. So if you hit start, actually, to make it simpler for you, if you hit start and search run, yeah. If you hit start and search run, if you're not able to use the shortcut, hopefully it doesn't get so slow on me. Okay, yeah, this is what we want. We want this too, so we can run a specific command. What we want actually is we want to browse. There's this specific folder that's quite interesting about Windows computers actually. There's this folder called the recent folder where you can actually find all the files that were recently opened, which is actually good for forensics purposes. So if we search for just the word recent, nothing fancy, just the word recent, it will actually open up a folder with all the places that were recently accessed. This is me, like literally just now, I just accessed this. But there's backup. There's a folder called backup, interestingly. So let's see what's inside of that folder. And it seems if you hover over this, it's inside the C drive. So let's try and get into this folder. This is one of the recently accessed folder. In case you have no idea, you're like, Nesh, but how on earth can I even access that recent folder? I mean, I have no idea about these things, right? It's perfectly fine. If you open your Windows Explorer just like we did before, just by going to this PC, you remember you want to foothold everything. You're investigating as much as you can to know as much as you can about the target system. So going into that C drive, obviously not just giving up after you got to the administrator. You can investigate, go through each and every folder like you do. Looking at this, there's a lot of stuff here. Also look for hidden folders while you're at it. Look for hidden folders. You might find hidden folders. How do you find hidden folders? That's easy. Just go to the view section there. Show hide is there. Show me the hidden items. Do you see that? So just like so, there are folders that were hidden, including our dear friend backup, which is pretty nice. But obviously, the big problem now is accessing that backup folder. There might be something useful inside the backup folder, which is actually what we want. We want to access whatever is inside this backup folder. It might be useful for us. There's restore. Interesting. This file restore might be a backup password. It might be the password written inside, right? So let's just try and open that file and see what we can find. So we'll open that and nope, you do not have permission to open this file. See the owner of the file or administrator to get permission. Okay. I just hacked into this thing. There's no way I'm gonna ask for permission. So we can try and make the file mine. Just check the properties of the file. We can try and force the file to be mine. So we can browse around and look at the security settings of this thing. No, we can browse through. So looking at this, we can edit and add new permissions. I'm just gonna add a new permission for myself here. We can actually do this, just add new permissions. It's a possibility. You'll notice here there's no groups or users have permission to access this object. Literally no one has access to this file, which kind of sucks. So I'm just gonna add myself so I can have access to this file, surprisingly. So I'm just gonna hit on advanced so I can enter some user information of myself. Okay, just gonna find now to search all the user accounts on this computer. If you look through here, there's a list of user accounts that are here. There's administrator, there's anonymous, authenticated. I'm looking here, by the way, there's backup, operator, batch, console, and so on. There's different users here. But what I'm thinking in my mind now is I want to add SG because I'm logged in as SG right now. So I want to add SG to this thing and log in as SG. So if I go through these, SG should be somewhere around here because they seem to be arranged in alphabetical order. So, and there's SG. So I'm going to add SG. So there you are, SG. So there we go, double click him. There is SG, then we hit OK. So there we go. Now there's actually someone who can access it. And not just that, I'm going to give myself full control over the file and apply the changes and then hit OK. So now I have access to that file. So I've just made those changes to it. Okay, now that is done, I'm going to save these new settings that I've done to the properties. And let's see if we can actually open the file here. So there we go. And we've eventually managed to find the password. Change me baby one more time is the password of the administrator. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Obviously you might be like, but Nash, in real life, people don't really put their passwords like that, right? That's fine. That's fine. Remember, it's a beginner level computer. As we progress through with a lot of our sessions, we'll get into more CTFs that are more difficult and more difficult and more difficult. So just like that, we eventually managed to find the administrator's password. If you would like, you can actually attempt to log in as the administrator. So what I'm going to do is just going to open that one more time to close this off. I'm going to copy this. Okay. I'm going to close that. You could attempt to log in as the administrator. So I'm going to close Remina, just like that. I'm going to reopen Remina just like so and attempt to log in again. Okay, so there we are. Administrator is the username this time. And we'll try that password to log in. I don't think I saved it somewhere. I'm just going to copy it. Change me baby one more time was the password we just found. So I can actually try and log in as the administrator with full access this time if there was anything else I wanted to do. But that should pretty much solve the entire CTF challenge anyway. But yeah, we managed to get access to the administrator. There we are. So you'll manage to log in as the administrative user. So hopefully that kind of solves everything. Okay. So that solves our entire hacking challenge. So give it a swing, guys. This is obviously recorded for you guys. So in case you missed anything, you can always review it. So, hey, I'm logged in as administrator. I found the root flag, which is good. Okay, that's probably like the last thing that they wanted. Yeah, escalate your privileges. What is the content of root.txt? There is the root.txt. We managed to log in as this guy this time. So there is the root.txt file, which is pretty cool. So if we now log in as the root user, we should be able to find the contents of our root file. This is the last flag that we had to find after gaining access to it. So it's kind of simple. It's kind of easy as pie, in a sense. So the more you practice these things, the better. Take note, this is not a normal Windows 10 machine. This is actually a Windows server. You find these in a lot of websites, a lot, in fact. So you wouldn't be surprised if actually there's such vulnerabilities such as these. Okay, hope that was fun for you guys. One thing I would advise you to do as a cybersecurity practitioner actually is to try and do the CTF first without any solutions, without watching the video. Try doing it from memory alone. See if you can figure your way around. And if you're able to manage to hack into the system and gain access and find all the flags all together, without it, you're perfect. If you're stuck along the way, that's perfectly fine. Okay, guys. Take note. If you have questions, please do leave them in the Q&A section. I'm actually reading through the Q&A section. Yes, it's recorded. All right, Anza, if you did miss anything, take note. It is being recorded for your reference, so you can look back at it. Oratile said it's so cool. Yes, Oratile, it is pretty cool. In fact, when I started this, I thought, wow. I just thought, wow, myself. Doing such challenges themselves, that they're pretty nice. And the fact that you're working with a real system, it's not a notebook, pen and paper, it's a real world system that you're working with. You broke into it, working with exactly just that. And it's misconfiguration. The fact that people save their passwords in random places is something that's quite useful, which is pretty nice. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Please put them into the Q&A section or the chat section or any of those, and I can answer those for you. Okay, guys, drop your questions in the Q&A. This is the end of our CTF. Oh, please feel free, by the way, after finishing a CTF, you'll actually get a nice little pop-up. On that pop-up, it looks something like this once you've completed your CTF. Feel free to share it on LinkedIn. You can tag myself or the Melsoft Academy on LinkedIn. We'll be happy to see that you managed to finish your CTF exercise. I'll actually be on the lookout for you guys. You can tag us on there, post it there. Let's grow as a network. Okay. All the questions, I'll be on the lookout for you guys. Right. Anza said, I love this session, willing to learn more. Awesome. Do you offer like a cybersecurity courses? Yes, Clarence, we do. We have a cybersecurity bootcamp. So it's 6 to 12 months. The kind of things that you just saw are quite a lot of things that we do. Take note, of course, it's not just the hacking stuff. We do a lot of forensics, we do a lot of networks, we do a lot of stuff there. So if you're interested, of course, you can join our cybersecurity bootcamp as well. I'm actually hoping that we can have the link to it in case you want to apply to our bootcamp. And if you do apply, I'll see you in the classroom and we can do a lot of these CTF challenges. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions, guys? As many questions as possible. Stupid questions allowed for obvious reasons. All right. Yes, Clarence. I'll make sure I get you that link. Okay, I'll make sure I get you that link. I'll just ask them to have the link pasted there for you guys for your reference. Okay. All right. What qualifications are required in order to make it to this course? Okay, metric. You need a metric. Most of them are just technical. You just need to be familiar with rather the basics of using a computer. Honestly, you need that. But out of honesty, most of the things that you would have inside the bootcamp are challenges you'd meet along the way. So if you have extra qualifications, maybe you've taken a computer science degree like myself, it will actually be a little easier for you. If you'd like, you can actually go ahead and take a look at it. It will make it easier. But a metric is the best and most minimum requirement for the bootcamp. Okay. Any other questions? How can I access this recording later on? All right, Tabi, so I believe the recording will be placed on YouTube. I also think it will be placed on LinkedIn. If I'm not mistaken, it will be there as well. So just be out on the lookout for that as well. Probably by tomorrow or a day after that, there should be a recording of this entire session there for you. And you can actually look back on the recording and do a try along with me. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Is there a difference in cybersecurity fields or courses? Which one would you advise us to study? Wow. Okay, Anza, it depends as a person. People have different things that they would like in cybersecurity. The kind of things that you saw, it's more ethical hacking. The bootcamp alone is very much enough to do that. And the bootcamp, we've structured it to cover as many fields as possible. So there are different fields, as you saw. What you saw is a cybersecurity analyst. It's one of the things you do. Ethical hacking, it's one of the things you do. Another field you could go into is it could go into digital forensics, where you actually work with law enforcement to investigate scenes where people have hacked into systems, or to just find evidence of an arbitrary crime, for instance. That's where it comes in handy. So there are different fields, honestly, that you can venture into. Okay. All right, Clarence is asking in terms of payments, how much will it cost you? I believe the information should be on our website. I'm not quite up to par with the information on that. So you can hit that apply now link. You should find some information on that as well. There's the prospectus. You can go through the prospectus. There's the link there. Perfect. So you can go through that, read through it, see what we offer and everything, the payment plans that you can and everything. Join us, and I can't wait to see some of you guys. If obviously you apply, which I'm really hoping to see you guys, as having you guys every single lecture would be very nice. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Python free course on Monday. Yes, thanks for mentioning that. We have a Python free course. If any of you guys are interested, there's a Python free course that we're releasing on Monday. For those who are into programming with Python, a very nice language. It's widely used. It's coming out on Monday. So please also be out on the lookout on our social media platforms. We'll provide you guys with details on that. Okay. All right. So again, guys, if you have questions, please do have them there out. But without any further addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, have a wonderful evening, guys. And hopefully in later weeks coming, we'll do this again sometime, and we can progress through and get into much more difficult problems together and do much more interesting hacks. And then some point as a jelly bean, we'll actually do a forensics investigation. For those who are into it, you'll actually see how forensics investigations are done. They are quite easier than you think, actually. You'll get to see us performing those investigations. All right, guys. For those without any further questions, have a wonderful evening. For those with further questions, you can place them into the Q&A, and I shall remain here with you guys. You are welcome, David. You're welcome.